Yeah, Hey, talking about lackluster games, did you guys hear about Mass Effect Andromeda?
We talked about it
No.
actually.
No? Oh, you
M-
did.
m-
Well, after the shitty animations that dropped on the internet like 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
so lovely.
Oh, it was brilliant. The game actually came out. Surprise, surprise. And it's gotten
Wow.
quite lackluster reviews. I think currently at Metacritic it holds a 7.6, whereas for comparison's sakes, Mass Effect 1 has 91, Mass Effect 2 96, and Mass Effect 3 93.
Yeah.
A score of. Which, you know, 76, it's decent, but for a Mass Effect game, especially for a game with a budget of $40 million, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
Personally, I was thinking about picking this up. I have been very vocal about making it my purchase, the newest purchase in 2017. But after the animation thing and after actually all the lackluster reviews, I opted not to buy this particular game. And for me, it's quite sad to see that this happened because I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect series, but apparently they did not do it justice with
And I
this
remember
game.
you were excited for this game because we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago.
Very
And
much,
yeah, well,
very
like you
much.
said, I mean, a 67 average isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but considering the high standards set by the franchise, it's definitely lackluster.
Mhm.
My girlfriend, by the way, I showed her the Mass Effect Andromeda animations a couple weeks back. And now sometimes she said, when I make a face, she said, "Oh, that's the face they always make in that game." So it left an impression. And I was
Great.
surprised to see
Oh, man.
you have that one comparison GIF where, with a on the left side you have Andromeda and on the right side you have Mass Effect One.
Yeah.
And Mass Effect One just looks objectively better from an animation perspective. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually,
It's-
this made me think of two separate stories just now. One is, I think it was Major League Baseball, a Major League Baseball game that had some glitches.
Was it the show?
Probably, yeah. Look up those glitches because they are fucking nightmare fuel. They truly are really like fucked up to look at. It looks like a guy is made out of like twigs or something. It's
Like the
really
Hellraiser
weird.
face.
Yeah, I think that would be one way to describe it.
Yeah, like
So that's one thing.
yeah, I'm
a
seeing it
recent
now.
a recent game that came out.
Jesus.
Another thing that
Jesus.
your talk about a 7.6 was it being
7.6.
being
Yeah.
quote unquote bad. I think
Ah,
well,
lackluster.
lackluster. I think the director of Batman vs Superman, the man loved by everyone
yeah.
on the internet, recently had
Zack Snyder.
a comment about how Rotten Tomatoes is ruining the industry. And while I don't think that's the case, I do think that it is, when you look at it, I mean, 7.6 is rounded off to an 8. An 8,
is a
I'd
great
say,
score.
is a pretty good.
Is a great score.
Yeah.
And I understand what I've
But-
seen that sentiment expressed before, especially with regard to Rotten Tomatoes, because Rotten Tomatoes is not very nuanced. It lacks all sort of nuance because it's either positive or it isn't. So yeah, and
There is no
that's
in
yeah
between.
that skews the score to like even a decent movie can have a really high Rotten Tomatoes score just because it's decent and very little people actually dislike it, so it gets a very high score. But if you go by the average, by the average actual score, it's a lot lower. But I okay.
Plus, also, let's be honest. If you're basing if you're basing it solely on one source, I mean, just looking at a number on Rotten Tomatoes or on Metacritic. In this case, I've been looking at the reviews as well, and they are all saying
Yeah.
the same thing. Writing is subpar,
Mhm.
which is for a Mass Effect game is really bad to hear. Apparently, the missions are sort of busy work, so they're not really interesting.
Yeah,
and even
the
though
submissions.
Fetch quest?
I,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, and even the characters themselves, and I'm quoting here Eurogamer, I think, is they are a mixed bag. Whereas with the original trilogy, you had great writing, you had a great narrative, you had tons of interesting characters. And yeah, sure, in Mass Effect 1, the side missions as well were sort of always the same, that I give full 100%. But then it stood on other pillars as well, like great writing, like great characters. And if those are not there as well, then it brings the whole game completely down. And especially if you have the experience that BioWare has, if you already have a set track record in said universe, then a 7.6, even though for another game may be great, for them it's disappointing. And especially for me personally, if I am going to buy a game at full price, I'm going to take a step back if it's just a 7.6, even though I was expecting more.
No, and on that I fully agree. We talked about this before, right? About having review scores influence your purchasing behavior.
Sway your... Yeah.
And I remember saying a couple of weeks back that somebody got upset at me when I expressed this sentiment. But yeah, when...
somebody upset on the internet?
Yeah, I know, right? No, but so what I said was I probably will not pick up a game at full price if the consensus is that it's not as great as people were hoping. So, and to that extent, I do look at Metacritic and I do look at the reviews, because it's a lot of money to drop on a game.
It definitely is.
On the other hand, I do see why some people would say that. I mean, it's not just Rotten Tomatoes; it's been said about Metacritic as well. I think, where you have game developers or publishers tying like bonus payments to an average Metacritic score. Whereas, which means that, like, if a game scores below a 90, for example, like the developer's bonus would be lower, so you would actively get paid less if the game scores below a certain mark, and that's not a very healthy way to go about it, I think.
Yeah. Well, there are definitely some faults in the gaming industry, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think games score higher than movies and music in general, right? Like the average score for video games.
I have no clue, actually.
And when I look at a review for a CD, and it's mostly positive, then that's pretty good, actually. Like if it scores around a 70 or a 75, that's really pretty good. But when you're playing a game, you want that 8.5 or higher.
Yeah, but that's also, in my case at least, it's like how much is a CD compared to how much is a game.
Yeah, it definitely price
Plus
does
a
factor
CD
in.
I can listen to while I'm doing something else.
Well, it's the
and
time
it's
investment.
different.
True, and no,
Plus,
I think that's fair.
I do think that there's a difference between the mediums because, music, I'm sure there's some scientists out there who can objectively measure music, but for most of us, there's a difference in taste. But with video games, there might still be a difference in taste, but there's still like basic gameplay elements that need to be.
I think that's
up to par.
That's what we talked about before as well.
Very true.
Like in game design, you do have some quantifiable elements.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, if it says press A to shoot and you're pressing A and doesn't shoot, it's sort of shitty.
No, it's avant-garde.
Whoa.
Okay.
Written by Hideo Kojima.
It doesn't tell me.
Getting back
it doesn't do what I want it to. It's against the system.
Getting back to
Mass Effect.
Yeah. I looked up the budget. Like I said, it was $40 million.
Justified.
Which is, which is a lot. And then I also looked at other games, and I looked at a particular open world game, which was well received, which has, I don't know what kind of Metacritic score it has, but it's The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
You guys know the budget of that game.
Is it 20?
It was probably quite a bit.
Polar, can
20
you
million?
repeat that, please? No, 50.
50? or 15?
It's somewhere. It's between 40 and 50 million.
Okay.
50. Between 40 and 50.
It was
million.
in development for
long time.
I don't know exactly how long.
But there you have. I mean, I don't like The Witcher, but I can see that it's a beautifully crafted game.
Okay.
And even though it is an open world game and it probably has some glitches along the line, look at what that company, that CD Projekt Red, what they could do with a budget of 50 million, and then you have a seasoned BioWare run by EA developer team with 40 million, and it turns out shit.
Well, I think it's also just the company policy that's behind it. EA gets shit on all the time.
Rightfully
sometimes fairly so, and sometimes not so much. But I mean, they are a big media company, multimedia company at this point. I believe. Oh wait, no, that was Ubisoft that did the Assassin's Creed movie. Never mind. But I do think that CD Projekt Red is very much focusing on one game and pushing out that game and making it perfect, and opposed to EA, which has a shit ton of games going on all the time. And
but still, it's one development team going on, developing Mass Effect
By the way,
Andromeda.
I see here that The Witcher 3 actually cost 81 million.
God, is that including marketing?
I think that's
then?
including
I only
marketing,
saw development costs.
So for Mass Effect, we are talking
maybe that's
about.
it.
We're talking 40 million just for development cost. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay,
that's what
okay.
I read. So with marketing, active marketing could be higher, but you're also looking at an IP that has quite a big economical power behind it. Blah blah
Sure.
blah. You have season
Sure.
passes and everything. So probably they recuperated anyway.
Sure.
So no.
I
problem
saw
there.
originally when
But-
these reports about The Witcher came out. I also read some stories that because it was developed in Poland, like the average, what would you call it? Labor fees in Poland are lower compared to, for example, the United States or Western Europe. So
Yeah.
that is also something to factor into that equation. Still,
but
of course.
Then you can also say scale of the game Witcher 3 towards Mass Effect.
Yeah, it from what it looks like, of course, none of us have played Mass Effect Andromeda, but from what it looks like, The Witcher 3 from a quality perspective
have an opinion.
is on a different level, certainly.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, also maybe a little bit in the defense of BioWare, they switched engines. That may sound like a small thing, but I can certainly see how that can fuck up your development a little bit. They switched from Unreal to the Frostbite
that's
engine.
what I heard, yeah.
And yeah, the Frostbite engine is also very good, but if you're just not used to working with that engine, well, let's be honest. I think they made Mass Effect on their Unreal engine, either 2.5 or 3. And was it Dragon Age as well?
And Dragon
So
Age,
you
from
have
what I
sort
heard,
of
Dragon Age does not have these problems.
No, Inquisition was met with critical
Yeah,
acclaim.
but also the animations were not an issue in Dragon Age, from what I hear. So
No,
it's really
they
strange
weren't.
what
No.
happened there.
And
And really, you say
Indeed.
in their
So maybe
defense,
that-
but maybe EA should have just kept this in the oven for a little while longer.
well, here's the problem though. For how long? Because when I look at it, these are probably not issues that you are going to fix within a year. If the writing is
Well, yeah,
bad,
the writing, yeah.
I mean, you probably.
Well-
That's also a pitter, right? It's not getting that 9 if you're writing a shit for a Mass Effect game. So, did they just push it out just to get it out and fix it later? Because they knew they were not going to make it happen in 1 year?
But these animations, though, they
I mean-
seem like a more... You would have to, like the actual animation model working behind the scenes would have to be changed across the board, right? And I think
Also-
people wouldn't have zoomed in on this game that much if these videos hadn't come out and if people hadn't noticed right then from the beginning, before the game even came out, just that something was up with this thing.
Mm-hmm. But how long do you think?
I have no idea about. I don't know about game development, so I can't say. Well, just give them a couple more weeks. It should all be ironed out.
Hey, Do an educated guess. I mean, we have.
Oh,
opinions about
sure.
games that we don't play, so whatever,
I
man.
think,
3
so
days.
8 hours in a work week, factoring in
Done.
crunch time, so that gives you about 12
8
hours
in a work week.
in a work day. I lead a very relaxing life.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it should be good to go
Yeah,
in 6 weeks. Yeah, sure, why not? Get on it.
I mean, for optimizing the engine, maybe so. I looked at it at the specifications as well. Thank you, Digital Foundry, for existing because goddamn, I love.
And
that
disclaimer: we have no
website.
fucking
Apparently
clue.
on the PlayStation. Wait, what? Anyways, PlayStation 4 runs at a full 1080p. Xbox One at 900p. This is the difference that we see nowadays. Anyway, so whatever. 30 frames per second capped at. And apparently, during cutscenes, which is interesting, the PlayStation 4 version drops to 900p, and the Xbox One drops to a resolution of 1344 by 756, which is apparently only 10% higher than 720p. So what the hell happened there?
Why does this happen?
I think because there's a lot going on in the cutscenes, and probably they switch out the models with higher resolution models for the specific
And it's all
cutscenes,
in-engine?
and that would be more taxing on the system. I think so, yes. If I compare it to Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3, then yes, it should be in-engine.
All right.
Which is okay. They do it as well in, what was the game called again? The awesome PlayStation, The Last of Us, they do that as well. They just switch out the models.
Yeah.
Which is, standard
Doesn't
practice, but I
Uncharted
think
do that as well
drags
for
the
some of the
performance
cutscenes?
Correct. Or at least I think on the Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure about 4 though.
Yeah, I thought for 4 that it some cutscenes used the engine and just had higher poly models, and some were just full FMV. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, that could be true. But anyways, it's ridiculous. Apparently, the game drops in frames. I think to somewhere just above 20 at specific points in the game, and there's no really. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One drop at the same random points. So not optimized at all, which is weird because it's an EA game. It's a Frostbite engine. I mean, they already released several games, but then again, of course, new development team do not know how to work with the engine, so maybe that's up as well. But, I mean, sure, Mass Effect doesn't have to be polished. I mean, the original trilogy wasn't as well, but there is a certain standard, I think, for a AAA title.
Yeah, I in general,
that's
I think
what you
most people
think.
like to have like to play polished games, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, crazy talk.
I'm not one of them, so why didn't I buy this game? Oh.
Really?
Grizzly plays only shitty games.
Unpolished turds, my
I
favorites.
play a fair share of shitty games. But it seems like it's a rough... The game is indeed not in a finished state. They are dropping patches. I think that I read somewhere that in the new patch they will address character models and animation. But is it then a little bit too late, especially in a season where a ton of good games have come out, like Zelda or Horizon Zero Dawn?
Yeah.
It was a pretty rough launch time anyway.
As always, this is the sad truth that we're
Definitely.
living with now, and just don't buy a high-profile AAA game on day one, because more than likely you will be stuck with an inferior product than had you picked it up maybe a month down the line.
For a lower price, usually. Is anybody going to pick up this game?
At some point.
I'm not a fan of the series, so no.
Okay. For me, I'm probably down the line if it's a little bit cheaper and the patches work their magic.
I really wonder how this game is going to perform, because there has been a massive negative buzz around
as well. Yeah. True, but it's also an established franchise, so it's not as damaging as it would be for a new IP, I think. So it will do well. It will do not as well as expected, is my prediction.
Yeah, but I don't know how big Mass Effect is when it comes to sales figures. But I also remember how Dead Space was just completely killed off after Part 3 failed to perform.
And there is the
Very
thing
true.
with Mass Effect, of course, that Mass Effect 3 kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So
Yeah.
This
Which
game
I
just
think
starts
is-
with the bad taste and keeps it that way. At least it's consistent like that.
So does it taste
It
the
is
same like a
consistent.
Nintendo Switch cartridge?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't tasted it yet.
Okay. Did you like the ending of Mass Effect 3?
I thought at the time I was mostly very confused about it, and then later it was patched with a little bit more explanation, and I watched my wife play the same ending but with extra explanation. I was like, okay, that sort of makes sense, but yeah, from a lore perspective, I guess I was just kind of mostly disappointed with it.
Okay. I thought it was okay, actually. I didn't really mind the ending as much as the internet did.
No, I wasn't
hey.
as butthurt over it as some people, but I just was.
But you guys were probably already prepared to be disappointed.
I stayed away from spoilers as much as possible, so I knew that people were disappointed with the ending, but I did not know why.
Yeah. Oh boy, I can't wait to find out for myself.
No, but
Can't
it
wait
was,
to be
it wasn't
disappointed.
bad.
Story of my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
Can't wait to get my hopes up.
Crush my dreams.
So yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It happened. Yep.
Damn,
Yep. Yep.